also think that Mr. Nicholas would like to elaborate on this point.
Yeah, I mean, in agreement with the PM and also BCG, it's in fact, it's around the normal operation and what we can expect to come from a power plant. When we're operating from time to time, we may have to adjust fuel pumps, we may have to change fuel lines. It's just inherent of, you're talking about a reciprocating engine, there will be vibration, and while most of those dynamics and vibrations were accounted for in the design, certainly you're still going to get ruptured fuel leaks. I mean, from our experience in working down at Friesel, there are times when we would have just rebuilt or done a complete refurbish of one of our gensets, start the recommissioning process, and before you know it, we have to come offline to adjust the pump, to fix a ruptured fuel line. It is just the nature of how power plants operate. And so these little adjustments that we have to make at this point in time is all part of the grand scheme of things. And I might add, it's a new power plant, so you will have teething issues. There's no perfect system. That's just the way it is.
Mr. Colin Sampson from Caribbean.
Mr. Prime Minister, good afternoon. Can you provide us with the rationale for your assertion in Parliament and subsequently that the use of the Kraft power plant will save Antigua $2.7 million every month, and how was that figure calculated, please?
So you just heard it. I mean, sorry. You just heard it. It's a question of whether you are producing your own or you are purchasing from somebody else and have to pay them X amount of money every month for the production, for the fuel that, not the fuel, but the electricity that you receive. And when you compare the situation, what we're saying is that there's a saving of $2.7 million per month. In other words, we don't have to purchase electricity to the extent that we were in the past, and as a result of that, $2.7 million would not have to be dispensed with by APUA.
To clarify that, please, it means then that by a combination of reduction of purchases from a current supplier and because of the higher efficiency of the Kraft power plant, those savings will be realized. Am I correct in saying that?
Basically.
Mr. Joseph would like to comment here.
Can I just clarify that, Colin?
Please.
When you say a savings, you mean in savings and cash flow output? Because we're dealing with gross figures, huh?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I said to you that last year we paid ABC $55 million for the year. Mm-hmm. That averages out at about 4-point-something million a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At that point in time, they are producing all of our generating requirements.
Understood.
Our energy. Okay. Now, if you cut the purchasing by about 30%, 30-40%, which is what we have actually by going online ourselves, our demand curve goes from about 41, from 36 down on the low side, 36, 37, to 50, 51 on the high side in terms of peak demand, fluctuation in demands.
Mm-hmm.
By operating our own plants, right, we can cut down what we need to buy
By 30%.
by about 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So that in fact, you're dealing with a cash flow proposition. Now, APUA, give you a further example. APUA, for instance, has to pay to APC $1.5 million a week, $1.2 million a week for a raise, working down on a raise position. It also has to pay the current monthly bill. Okay, it has to pay West Indies in the region of $2.8 million a week for fuel. Okay, so that if you are doing your own generating, don't remember that constant thing is fuel. Whether you go to APC or you go to yourself, fuel is constant. Okay, so if you can cut down the amount of monies you have to pay out on a weekly basis, you will recognize immediately the impact on your cash flow. So when you're talking about savings, I mean, the proper term would have been, rather than savings, is in terms of negative impact on your cash flow of about $2.7 million a week. Okay? So it clarifies it. Because in neither case are we talking about operational costs on either side, because we deal with gross numbers.
So by keeping the transactions in-house, the purported inefficiency of whatever, or the new plant, is not really relevant to this calculation?
Well, it is relevant in sense because you're dealing with two issues. You have to deal with the efficiency and whether there's comparative efficiency. You know, in any wet biology proposition, you have to deal with comparative efficiency. So once you're satisfied that the comparative technical efficiency, which we are at this point in time, is equal, okay, the question is the choice you make about external outsourcing or internalizing. And by outsourcing, you have to put out an extra $2.8 million. Internalizing it, you keep it within house. Not only that, but all the ancillary social capacities that you build, by keeping it inside, makes a considerable difference to the life of the organization.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Everton Barnes, freelance journalist and also of Caribbean.
Good afternoon, everybody. Ambassador Shaw, when you gave your presentation, you said that the cost of the plant at commissioning was $47 million US dollars, 300 or thereabouts R&D. I remember clearly when we had the groundbreaking back in I think 2008, the figure was 43 million US. I'm not sure what the rand equivalent would have been at that time. And then you did indicate that that extra 4 million US is due to the fact of the fluctuation in the price of the yen vis-a-vis the US dollar. Now we all know that the international community is currently putting a lot of pressure on the People's Republic of China to appreciate its currency because of the imbalance in terms of the export from China to these countries and the minimal import from these countries. If that happens in terms of the appreciation of the Chinese currency, what guarantees are there that the loan as negotiated in R&D would not be affected? Are there any way to protect Antigua Barbuda so that we don't just move from 43 million to 47 million R&D, but probably could go 50, 60 million US dollars? I mean, what guarantees are there? What protections have been built into the negotiating the contract itself to secure Antigua Barbuda's interest?
You realize you asked a lot of questions there. And I think you have not repeated what I said correctly. I didn't say 47 million at groundbreaking.
No.
I said 43 million.
No. I know. So let me clarify. Let me clarify what I said. What I'm saying is, at the groundbreaking, I recall that it was said that it was 43 million. That's what I'm saying.
That's not what you said, so you missed. You said 47 million. So if you're saying that the
groundbreaking was 43 million.
I just want you to get your facts right.
No, at the groundbreaking it was 43 million.
Okay, great. So we have settled that one.
Yes, sir.
Oh, your question as to regards what we would have done to as regards the fluctuation and that there is pressure from the international community. That is a question that has to be handled by the direction of which way the government of the People's Republic of China intends to handle it. But I can assure you one thing, that we have a 30-year relationship in January, and we have a very good bilateral relationship.
January 2013.
2013. Good. Now, it doesn't have to be this government or any other government. You can go to the People's Republic of China and say, now listen to me, this is the problem we have. When we signed, it was 7.10, it's now 6 whatever. How can we overcome this problem? Because it is becoming a strain for a while. But it is going to be done on the friendship basis and the respect that we have for each other. And also, I mean, how can we preempt that? Because look at where we are today. You can go to America and buy a house that's worth twice as much. We didn't foresee. So in 4 years' time or 5 years' time, how do you know that the electricity, that the exchange would be higher rather than lower?
Thank you, Ambassador. Alex Nicholas,
Please.
Prime Minister.
I think it is important to also emphasize the point that internationally, and you made the point as well, these loan agreements are made out in RMB, which is Chinese currency, right? So that is not peculiar to Antigua and Barbuda. It's not peculiar to the UPP administration. You look at any agreements, loan agreements that were hammered out prior to our existence, it's the same thing. What we have sought to do, though, over time, recognizing that there is a built-in situation here, is to seek from time to time to get adjustments on the interest that is being paid on these loans. We were able to accomplish that, even for those loans that predated the coming into office of the United Progressive Party administration. Where they were 4%, they're now down to 2%. And where they're 2%, we're trying to get them down to 1%. Because we take all these factors into consideration. And in addition to that, because of the friendship that has developed, over time, you will be able to make direct representation to the Chinese authorities to make adjustments in terms of the overall structure of these loans. That could end up in a situation where at the end of the day, you pay very little in return because of the fact that the structure is developed in a particular way, but you have an opportunity over time to make these adjustments to take into consideration the point that you're making. But this is international. It's not peculiar to Antigua. It's not peculiar to this government. This is how these loans are put out, in Chinese currency. And you weigh that against the United States dollar, depending on the situation with the fluctuation, it goes up and down, and as we're operating in an environment where it's going more up than down. So, or vice versa. So that has to be taken into consideration. I just want to explain that there are no devils there in that arrangement. That is what it is. And from time to time, we have sought to do something about it in a way. Until sometime the Chinese will come to the conclusion that they have to make this adjustment internationally in terms of whether or not they're going to continue to have these loans being put in their currency.
Mr. Li Rensong of the Exim Bank of China would like to give remarks on this subject.
Okay, thank you. 非常感谢您提出这个问题。
Thank you for your question.
我注意到您在提问题的之初提到有关人民币迫于国际压力升值的问题。
So I'm aware of that you put the question about the appreciation of RMB, the pressure on that.
OK，对不起，请不要记录，我不想做过多的评论，因为我不是专家。但是我想说一点，就是。
Okay, just want to express my personal views about the appreciation of the currency.
就像您所说，现在国际上对中国的这个人民币升值有一定的压力。但是我想说呢，人民币升值它的背后是有很复杂的国际背景，有很复杂的经济因素。
So, as you mentioned, the Chinese currency has been facing the pressure from the international community to appreciation. And what I want to say is, behind this pressure, there's very complicated indicators or influences happening behind that one. It's very complicated.
所以我们每个人都不能确保人民币始终处于升值的状态。
So, nobody in the world can promise that the promise of the appreciation of currency or promise the depreciation of the currency. Nobody can predict that. RMB.
但是归根到底，我想说呢，汇率波动它不是一种，汇率波动是一种常态，但是单方向的这么一种波动，它不是常态。
So I want to say that the fluctuation of the RMB or of any currency in the world is very normal, but it's abnormal that some of the currencies, including RMB, will go appreciation continuously, never coming down. This is impossible.
从短期来看，人民币的这个升值确实会对这个借款国，具体来说对安巴政府形成一定的还款压力。
So in the short term, we admit that the appreciation or the pressure on the appreciation of the RMB will put some pressure on the low countries.
这就是所谓的汇率风险。但是我想提醒您，为什么不换一个角度？如果人民币出现贬值的时候，这个压力将会得到极大的释放。
So this is the so-called risk of the currency. I want to remind you, sir, what if the depreciation of RMB happened? The pressure will be greatly released.
另外一点呢，我再想强调一下，关于这个项目，我们签署的是人民币，货币是人民币，这个金额是3亿元，从来没有发生过变化。
And also, I want to confirm or reconfirm the point that this project and the loans provided to this project is 300 million RMB. It is always 300 million RMB, never change.
所以，所谓由于这个汇率变化而这个导致现在的贷款按照这汇率折算变成4700万美元，并因此带来这个就所谓这个美元金额增加的问题，这也不是一个常态。
不是一个常态。
或者我重复一下吧。
您重复一下。
就是由于汇率变化，您刚才提到使这个现在咱们按美元计算是4700万美元，这个贷款协议，看起来好像是它金额增加了，但是这个并不是一种常态，因为汇率是变化的。
So this project in Chinese currency is 300 million RMB, and because of the fluctuation of the currency in the global market, when translating to the US dollars, it's growing from 43 million to 47 million. But this is it's not not always happens that you pay when you actually more than what you got.
但是现在3年的时间过去了，如果说您要考虑这汇率方面的汇率这个变化的因素的话，那么也请考虑一下关于物价上涨和成本增加的问题。
And also, it has been 3 years since we signed the agreement. If you want to consider the fluctuation of currency taking it into consideration, please also taking the other things into consideration, like the increase of the price of the materials and other things.
所以一个简单的问题就是，现在您用4700万美元还是否能够建起这么一个电厂
？And the question is very simple, that we do doubt about you can still build a power plant like this at the price of only 47 million US dollars at present.
所以对此点，我认为还是更应该看到项目本身早建成所带来的实际收益，用发展的眼光看问题。
So I think it's more important that we have the Antigua Barbuda has already got the power plant in the shortest possible time. So you have actually avoided a lot of risks of the increase of the prices of the materials.
谢谢。
Thank you.
Mr. Clarence Joseph of the Board Commissioners.
Thank you. Let me just take that one step further, to your clarification. let's not worry about what was commissioned. We actually paid out to the point of conclusion of the contract just under the 300 million. The actual figure is 299, 999, etc. 300 million. Okay? That's the actual payout that we signed off on. At the time of signing off, the US value of that was 44,184,008. Okay, that's the actual conversion at that time. And the actual conversion in EC dollar at that time would have been 120,043 and change. Now, you ask if the RMB escalates. What if the EC dollar devalues? You're in the same position.
Mr. Alex Nicholas, ABS Television.
Good afternoon. My question will be directed to members of the APOA, preferably maybe the electricity manager, Mr. Francis. There's been bandied about in certain media that about the type of fuel used to operate the plant at Crabs. Can you tell us what fuel is used, because we've been hearing bunker oil and diesel. What fuel is used to operate the plant, and if you can, the cost maybe on a monthly basis of operating the 30 megawatt plant?
Thank you, Alex. The power plant is designed to burn both heavy fuel and diesel. Principally and primarily is designed to burn heavy fuel. Heavy fuel bunker C is basically the same fuel. It has been burning primarily heavy fuel bunker C, same fuel. Diesel is something that it has the capacity to burn. There's a need to. Okay, so just to be clear, the plant has been burning heavy fuel or bunker C, and that's what it was designed to do. In terms of the cost of running the plant, basically, maybe perhaps Brian can help me with how much fuel we burn per month. About 20,000 gallons of heavy fuel per day. So that'll be about at $9, $9.30 a day. You can do the math. $9.30 per gallon. Sorry.
Yeah, on an average, we probably do about 651,000 imperial gallons of bunker C for the production of electricity from that plant, which is typical, I would imagine.
The floor is now open. Sean Thomas from ABS Television.
Yes. Yes. Both parties, government of Antigua and Barbuda and China, would have toured the facility. What are the key elements of your findings, and in terms of costs of operations and possibly maintenance of the facility, what kind of figures are we looking at?
The question is directed to
the chairman of the board, as well as maybe a comment as well from China.
You'll have to clarify that. You're asking me the daily cost of operation
in terms of maintaining the project, and what are your key findings or the key elements of the report that you'd prepare after your inspections?
Let's say that it was I'm trying to interpret you what is going in there, because I'm not totally clear what the question is. Because you are dealing with, once you're dealing with a new plant, you're relatively maintenance free. You might routinely, because of the nature of the engine that you're dealing with, you might routinely have a pump stick, you might have to amend that, you might have routinely have to change out a coat seal, a valve or something like that, right? But in terms of the comparison of maintenance of what we're accustomed to, meaning Brazil, is relatively maintenance free. Operationally, it's costing us about $1 million US a year to operationalize it in terms of staff and benefits, etc., etc. We use used to be spending upwards of $4 million a year in staff and other services in order to maintain Baker, which is the old 4 megawatt plant, and the Friesel plant. So the labor costs we would save trim a little over $1 million to $2 million in labor costs by operationalizing this plant. You would understand that it is a modern plant, so it's essentially computerized, and you take about the data and you feed into maintenance systems and the automatic shutdown so that you wear and tear on components would, because of the newness of the plant, change your operational base, etc. We have been able to change our operational mode in terms of how we function, which lends, in our view, as a board, for greater efficiency. For instance, no disrespect or no knocking of the ancient way of operating, because that was the ancient way. Mechanics came to work in the daytime, and if anything go wrong in the night, you shut it down and you wait until morning. What we have done is we have changed to a shift system that has a skill available for any possible area of impact on the performance, so that you have if you're a specialist, you have electrical specialist, you have a mechanical specialist on every shift, so that things that used to have to wait until morning to occur can now be remedied on the immediacy, because the skill is available, so that we have considerably changed our operational base. And this thanks to BCG, because we asked them to look at an operational base that would be suitable to the type of plant. We went through with them the mechanisms and the skills available that need to be available, and we adjusted our methodology according to that. So that if you look at the general way the plant is being operated, the level of functional efficiency and the structure that we have put in place for the operation is far superior to what existed before. But as you know, as a high-tech person yourself, you can't, once you function on reading, compute out, printouts, etc., somebody has to be there to do it. And if there's a defect at any point in time, any of the components, somebody has to be there to fix it, or the whole system rapidly breaks down. And the probability of the cost of bringing it back online is, enormous and tremendous and not worth it. And then you contribute to the loss of efficiency in the life of the engine. So that is what you're protected to. Get down to hard numbers at this point in time. I couldn't give you those at this point in time. But you can call me. I'll find out and then I'll tell you.
What are the findings of your research?
No, as far as we are concerned, and this is on the technical advice provided by the technical team, the engines are performing, the auxiliaries are performing, and the plant is performing magnificently as far as we are concerned. We have some adjustments to make. For instance, we have fuel measurements on the tanks, so we can measure the fuel use as it removes from a tank. Remember that